So you know how last week I said that the Grandmaster Nightfall, the Glass Wave, was no longer the hardest Nightfall? Well, that's because the hardest Nightfall in the game right now is the Lightblade. And really, guys, this is a very difficult Nightfall. You have got to be clicking on all cylinders, you and your team, if you expect to get through this Nightfall on Grandmaster. Now, a couple reasons why this Nightfall is so difficult. Number one, acute arc burn. You deal 25% more arc damage, but at the same time, you take 50% more arc damage. This is incredibly punishing, considering everything in this Nightfall does arc damage pretty much, especially in the boss room where the boss itself shoots off these volley of arc that pretty much can instantly melt you, and don't even try to hide behind a column because he'll still hit you. But the only way you can dodge his shots is by running for your life. And in the boss room, it literally is every man for himself. And if you happen to fail in this room, do not be disheartened, because we did this Nightfall all day today and we failed so many times. With that being said, I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to get through this Nightfall, including builds to try, different ways to optimize, and hopefully completing this Nightfall this week will be possible for you. Now, with that being said, the reward for this week is the Comedian. Not many of us are that crazy about that shotgun. I actually will probably end up reviewing it and its new traits, or at least some of its new traits, to really just kind of go over to see whether or not this weapon is going after. Based on my experience with the Comedian though, not really. Now, modifiers for this Nightfall includes Empath, Enhanced Radar, take increased damage from melees. Yes, even a simple thrall can instantly kill you. Champions include Barrier and Unstoppable. Radar is disabled. All the Grandmaster modifiers, Match Game, Limited Revives, Champions Mob. You'll also be dealing with Solar and Arc Shields. Now, normally I would say, hey, have someone on your team rock a solar weapon. Honestly though, it's just the wizards that have the solar shields. And Arbalest instantly one-shots those shields, which actually takes us to our builds. Guys, everyone's gonna have a different way of doing this Nightfall. Personally, this was how we were doing it, and we were optimizing pretty good, especially on the front end of this Nightfall. But we were essentially rocking one Nova Bomb, one Tether Hunter, and one Yeet Titan. Now, all of us were rocking pretty much the same weapon loadout, and that included Arbalest, a arc weapon in our energy slot. For me, is actually this Adepted Sidious, which if you've got the enhanced version of this weapon, that's even better, and the Hothead rocket launcher. And the roll that I got actually comes with tracking and explosive light. Arguably one of the best rocket launchers you can use, especially with this burn modifier, and considering explosive light and that increase in damage. And of course, if you got the Adept version, you can slot on things like Adept Big One Spec. But there are other options out there, of course, in that heavy slot. If you got a Tarantula, that deals arc damage as well. Unfortunately, I didn't keep any rolls of Tarantula, but yeah, you could definitely take advantage of that. Some people are gonna ask, why not try things like Grand Overture? Some of y'all even probably saw me using Anarchy earlier today. Guys, if Arbalest wasn't so dang good, I really would use something else in that heavy slot. But Arbalest is such a must-have in this Nightfall that I just had to stick with it. Now, being on Yeet Titan, we're obviously taking advantage of the Falling Star exotic. Consider we're doing 25% more arc damage. Code of the Missile Titan is doing a ton of damage. Enough damage to pretty much almost kill a champion in one super. And even like the Lucent Hive, I was getting them very close to at least a finished state after hitting them with a super. Normally, I would hit them in like maybe a couple shots with Arbalest or a rocket, and then follow up with a super, and then instantly get the finish off, and then proceed to finish the ghost. Now, again, the beautiful thing about these finishes is, of course, Lucent Finisher. Definitely want to rock this mod, guys. Essentially, defeating Lucent Hive or champions with your finisher spawns heavy ammo for you and your allies. I would actually advise everyone on the team rock Lucent Finisher. Now, considering I'm trying to get my super back as often as I can, I am rocking High Intellect at 100 Intellect, and I'm also rocking Dynamo. Now, Dynamo rewards you for using your class ability when you are near targets. This is not as hard of an ability to take advantage of, even on the Titan class. Considering that, though, I do have high resilience to try to give me my barricade back as quickly as I can, and I'm also taking advantage of double utility kickstart to constantly give me back a good portion of my class ability when I would cast it. This would result in me getting my Yeet Titan super as often as possible. And when you get into that boss room, you'll be amazed how often you can actually use your super, because the boss itself, when ads are spawning in and when the boss is spawning in, a number of really big orbs drop right there in the middle of the map. So if you're constantly picking up those orbs, guys, use your supers. You'll be amazed how quickly you get it back. Now, the only other build I'm going to cover right here is Les's build. Again, Arbalest as well. He was actually rocking 6 Coyote and a number of fragments here and aspects. One being Vanishing Step, the other one being Trapper's Ambush. He was also rocking Echo of Obscurity, Echo of Undermining, and Echo of Persistence. Long story short, he was going invis a bunch, and he was keeping us invis as well. But again, pretty much the same exact things said, I was rocking Lucent Finisher, Scavenger perks for both Arbalest and Rocket Launcher. And again, Rocket Launcher Scavenger only costs 1 on the artifact mod. With that being said, let's talk about the actual Nightfall itself. Guys, as Nightfall opens up with the Lightblade at the end here, and all you have to do in this room, guys, is just do enough damage to push him back and get him to TP away. After you get enough damage into him, he'll teleport away, and you want to just head right there to the left side. This is where Les would actually smoke us, and upon smoking us, we would just continue running up, and we would run past all of these ads, including the champion. Now, you don't have to kill these guys at the front. Even after completing the Nightfall, you'll still get platinum. You don't have to do damage to them, nothing. Just run straight past them. Now, when you get to this next section, at the end of this walkway, you'll have a wizard down here, pop him with an Arbalest, and then proceed to move up. You're gonna have another wizard that's peeking over that front. Deal with that wizard as well. Now, this whole room right here can be pretty chaotic if you don't prioritize certain targets. Most notably being that Lightblade's warrior. This guy is annoying. He has superb grenade throwing skills. He also launches these Sentinel shields that can easily one-hit kill you and your entire team, which has crazy tracking. We like to try to prioritize him, but a lot of times he'll end up like just sticking in a corner. Sometimes he'll move to the middle, but the way to really go about this room is just single out whatever's separated. So if there's like a champion and the Lightblade's warrior on the right side or maybe in the middle, you may want to single out the champion that's on one of the ledges on either side. If they pop their super and someone on your team is not rocking suppressor grenades, I would honestly suggest hiding. Like for real, hide. Or at least play extremely cautiously. This is where having at least one person on your team rocking suppressor grenades is extremely beneficial. The beautiful thing though, especially considering you're rocking Lucent Finisher, is after you go in and get a finish off on these champions as well as this Lightblade's warrior, you're going to be raining heavy down. So do not worry about being super conservative with your heavy. Yo, spin that. Shoot all of it. You're going to get it right back. Now, throughout this process, I would actually be feeding myself super energy, popping my barricades. And again, with Dynamo, as long as you're popping a barricade or your class ability, as long as you're doing it within a certain radius, so whether they're above you or below you, it will give you super energy. Now, upon dealing with that first Lightblade and barrier champions, you're actually going to have a second Lightblade that will spawn behind you, pretty much from where you came in. Normally, we would like run to the back of the room because it can get really hectic if we stay up top and just kind of draw those enemies down. At the same time, a number of other ads are pouring out, Thrall are out, Acolytes are out, deal with those enemies, and then upon dealing with all of them, this is when a huge wave of enemies are going to spawn in. This is when I would normally pop my super and catch all of them right there in the middle. You're going to have Lightblade's disciples, warriors, everything right there in the middle, as well as a number of Thrall, and again, a single super pretty much wrecks all of them. Go for the finishes though. And again, for those that are constantly doing finishes, if you are not on a Void class and you're not taking advantage of Echo of Obscurity, take advantage of the mod Reactive Pulse. In the least, you can get that arc overshield. The only thing you need to do to satisfy that is, of course, have a arc mod socketed either on that piece of armor or on another piece of armor to gain that powerful overshield when performing your finisher. And I was doing like Reactive Pulse and Powerful Friends. You can, of course, swap that out for like Radiant Light. And I know no one really cares about it because it got nerfed, but considering that I am trying to take advantage of Charge with Light, I am using Protective Light. Although I felt like I was still getting wrecked no matter what, it's still only a 10% damage resist. Now, upon finishing this room, you'll push up into this next section, and this is when you actually have to jump on that ship or that platform to take you across. But before you do that, you have to come up these stairs. Now, we actually took the left side first. We would deal with that barrier champion up top, kill him, get a finish off, and then when you look across, you'll have another barrier champion to deal with. Upon dealing with that guy, though, and the rest of the ads, you'll jump on top of that platform, and you'll begin scooting across. Now, instead of riding this ship all the way through, we actually found it much better to just dive off to either one of the sides and just deal with the ads from afar, right? Just so you're not taking a bunch of shots as you're going through. But you can literally hop from platform to platform. You'll have a Shrieker to deal with, and normally what we do is on like this second to the last platform, one of us would jump across to activate that Shrieker, and then the other two from behind would instantly shred it. Now, going into this next section, you'll notice that the ship is stopped. It'll want you to lower the barrier. You'll have to deposit 2 charges, and in order to get those charges, you have to deal with 2 Lightblade warriors. Now, the problem with these warriors is that the moment you peek them, they'll instantly pop a super. This is, again, having a suppressor grenade is so valuable. Pop that grenade on them, do some damage, get a finish off, top that heavy off, drop that charge, and then move to the other side and do the exact same thing. In the least, someone on your team needs to be rocking suppressor grenades. At least one person, maybe even 2. And I would honestly advise, if anyone is rocking Void 3.0, to be rocking suppressor grenades. I know everyone likes Void vortex grenades and the damage and the ad clear. But in this Nightfall, you need suppressor grenades for these guys. Now, after you actually clear all these ads and deposit those charges, the barrier will lift and you'll be going into this next section. Now, this next section has a number of bridges where the ship normally takes you under. And while this is happening, you're taking like a lot of gunfire. Again, like we did in the room before, hop off on either side and deal with the ads from afar. Use Arbalists to deal with the wizards, primary weapons to deal with everything else, and just keep moving up very methodically, dealing with all these acolytes, wizards, and of course, look out for the moths. You'll also have a couple shriekers there at the end to deal with. Again, feel free to just be very slow, even in this section, and head glitch these shriekers. Now, upon dealing with that final shrieker, you can jump through this portal. Now, when you jump through this portal, it'll instantly port you to where the ship is, or at least the section and platform right before the ship. You can either stay down here and let all these thrall that are coming out of these portals come to you. The problem is, again, increased melee damage. If they happen to get to you, they will kill you and your team very, very quickly. My suggestion is actually to jump up, but again, hug the side so you don't hit a thrall head on, or it will push you off the map, and then jump to one of the doorways. The reason why this is so good is the thrall will just pour out and jump down to the ship and go right past you, and you can just sit there and just kill them with your primary weapons. Beautiful part right here. Child of the Old Gods, if you have a void lock on your team, works beautifully here in dealing damage and locking these thrall that are all jumping down. Now, going into this next area, this is an area that gets a lot of people in trouble. Everyone's got different ways of doing this. You would have to traverse the swamp essentially and get to the end. Very similar to like Crota's Inn, the first part of it, where you have like these obelisks, these towers that take away the weight of darkness. And this weight of darkness accumulates in between each of these towers. Now, some people recommend just sitting a hunter alone, just envision himself over and over again. Problem with that is if he happens to get maybe halfway through it and die, all those towers that he activated will have blown up already, meaning the teammates that have to go get them and get the res will have to walk pretty much with max stacks of weight of darkness, which makes them easy targets for all of the screebs, scorn, and moths spread throughout this entire swamp. My suggestion is just everyone move together very methodically, slow, take advantage of some invis, but honestly, just kill everything together. As you get close to each one of these towers, you can see the moths there. Get close enough, activate them, and then instantly shoot them. They have ginormous hitboxes, and those hitboxes only get bigger when you actually activate them. But everyone just needs to work together, focus on looking behind you, and considering you don't have radar, dude, cut your sound up. Like, for real. I was relying on sound to figure out where the enemy was coming from, and it actually helped. Now, if someone dies at this portion, you do not have to wait to get the res. Matter of fact, if someone dies, fellas, just leave them. Get to the end of this swamp area and jump across this bridge. When you do that, it will actually despawn, or should despawn, most of the ads. There'll be some moths left, but you can run back and pick up your teammates without having to deal with that weight of darkness. Now, moving into this next section, you've got an unstoppable champion at the end here, as well as a number of stalker scorn up top, and of course, charging you. Deal with that unstoppable abomination, proceed to move up, and when you get up into this area, I know that arc damage is pretty much the modifier for this week, right? And these guys are doing like void damage, and I know there's some like stasis sprinkled in there. Dude, just be careful. Like, I was actually rocking flashbang grenades and would throw a flashbang grenade up there just to go ahead and blind all these enemies, and it would actually help. Now, when you move up to the ledge right here, this ledge, when you look over it, you'll see a number of things happening. There's like a war going on down low between the Hive and the Scorn. You've got the Lightblade at the end there, who's like pointing his finger at you. Again, similar to like the very first section of this Nightfall, deal with that Lightblade, do enough damage to push him out, and he'll teleport away. Now, while you're standing on this ledge, you can proceed to deal damage and kill all these targets from above, as well as deal with the Shriekers if the Shriekers open. But be aware, those giant Screebus will jump up literally right next to you. They can make that jump. I know. So while you're scoped in, occasionally scope back out and make sure you don't have Screebs literally right on top of you. Now, we actually like to take out the Blighted Gravekeepers, all these Hive Ogres first, not the champions, and then we would actually proceed to move to the champions. Now, the reason we like to do it this way is because we can't finish those big Hive Ogres, but we can finish those champions and get heavy ammo for our teammates. You'll have an unstoppable abomination out there, as well as an unstoppable ogre. Deal with them, finish them off. You really want to top off heavy ammo here, guys. Get all the ammo you need, because this next section is actually the boss room. Now, drop it down into the boss room. Make sure you actually hit your jets when you're coming down on your jump. You can die right here. I'm guilty of it, which is a terrible way to start this boss room off. But upon dropping down, you'll activate the Lightblade, and he is running around like crazy. He's shooting, he's moving, he's jumping. But at the same time, when he dropped down, you probably notice all these orbs orbs that dropped around him. Fellas, use your supers. I use my super right here. I jump up, I pick up these orbs, and you can see how quickly I get my super back. There are orbs sprinkled everywhere down here. Now, granted, there's also a number of cursed thrall down there, so you may have to kill some of them. And it is something to juggle, dealing with those cursed thrall while dodging the shots from this boss, because he can instantly melt you. Now, he'll continue rotating until you knock off a third of his health. Now, when you knock off a third of his health, he'll actually teleport right back to the middle of the room, and he will spawn 2 Lightblade disciples and a Lightblade warrior. Whoever your tether hunter is, pop your tether right there in the middle, get a debuff in there, and then your Yeet Titan needs to instantly, right after that tether is popped, pop his super and kill everything right there in the middle. Now, when you go in and actually get the super off, you'll pretty much instantly shred everything, but the only thing you need to finish is, of course, that Lightblade warrior. And I know it's like really hectic. It's hard to even see everything that's happening in front of you, but just as soon as you get your super off in there, you start mashing your finisher button, and it will finish off something, most notably the Hive Ghost that's right there in the mix. Now, upon dealing with these guys instantly, which is honestly the best way to deal with them, as when they spread out, it gets really hectic. So if you can deal with them immediately off the rip, this makes the next part very, very easy. You're actually going to have 2 champions appear, both barrier, and you want to just kind of stay spread out from each other, just so you're not getting hit with the full blast together. Whether it's the boss or even these barrier champions, the damage that they deal has a lot of splash damage. And if you're grouped up together, this can be a problem. That's something about this Nightfall that's different from other Nightfalls. It wants you to split up. Now, deal with these barrier champions. While all this is going on, you of course have the boss giving you a lot of hell. And again, the moment he even starts to target you, just start running. Just run. Bob and weave, man. But deal with these champions, get a finish off if you can, and keep working down the Lightblade's health. Now, upon getting the Lightblade down to a third of its health, he will then teleport right back to the middle again. And the same thing we did a second ago, you're going to do the exact same thing right here. You'll have the Lightblade disciples and warriors pop up in the middle, and you want to try to have the same setup that you had a second ago. A couple tethers off and a Yeet Titan go in. Unfortunately though, if you die before you picked up the orbs that drop there in the middle, when you respawn, those orbs won't be there. So be very, very careful of that, guys, if you're looking to chain supers back to back. Now, as you begin to do more and more damage to the boss after dealing with those disciples and warrior, again, 2 more champions, both barrier will spawn. Now, my suggestion, considering the boss likes to aggro one person, that one person needs to just try to take that aggro and run with it, right? Like, don't get right close to the boss, but just hop back and forth from platform to platform in some kind of way, just to keep his attention. And the other 2 teammates needs to hard focus those barrier champions. Just unload your Arbalists on them and just get rid of them. But upon dealing with those barrier champions, the rest of this Nightfall is just you killing the boss, which is still a task. Whatever you do in this Nightfall, do not stop moving when this boss is moving and shooting. Always be moving. At the same time, try to communicate effectively to each other and deal with the barrier champions as quickly as you can. And again, if you follow what we said, dealing with the disciples and the Lightblade warriors, like, that's not too difficult at all. Lock them in place right there in the middle. They're really easy. The barrier champions are a little more annoying due to their spawn cadence, and they can just catch you off guard. But take your time, guys. But at the same time, don't stop moving. If the boss starts to target you and you're like, yo, I'm just gonna sit behind this column and chill, don't do that. Move, man. Get out of the way, because he's just gonna shred you even behind that column. So guys, that is our Nightfall guide for the Lightblade. Will we have another guide? Potentially, yeah. I mean, there's always stuff coming out, always new ways to optimize. I actually think we'll probably find an even better way to optimize. But overall, I was very much impressed with our build synergy, our loadouts, our subclasses. I was also extremely impressed with Yeet Titan and the increased damage that it was doing. And of course, Arbalist is an absolute must for this Nightfall too. So guys, give it a go, try it out. And if anything comes up that helps us optimize this Nightfall even more, we will definitely include it in a second guide. And feel free to comment below if we missed anything. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.